Once upon a time, not too long ago, I was visited by a vision. My friend was working on a project, and I, ever enthusiastic, invited myself into it. I spent a lot of time, like a lot of time, talking with my most excellent friend Raven over at Cat and Raven Designs, because we like to share ideas, like here's what I'm working on, and here's what I'm excited about, and sometimes, as you may have seen, we combine our ideas and come up with something fun together. In this case, she did not ask me for my input, but I gave it anyway, because that's just how friendship works sometimes. She was telling me about the release she's planning for this month, Pink Power, based all around the idea of growing up as a tomboy and rejecting pink and hyperfemininity just because we felt like it didn't fit, and therefore you can't like pink in any capacity because it's too feminine and I'm not like other girls and all that. The soap collection is all about reclaiming that and realizing as an adult that you can be into a multitude of things and it doesn't necessarily encompass your entire identity or detract from it. So go ahead and be into what you want. So, with the concept of pink, the concept of power, and the warped way in which I see myself, buff pink frog. And that's kind of all I got. That was the entire thought process behind this first sketch. I clearly took a very literal interpretation of the phrase pink power when I came up with this to represent the pride that one can take in their femininity, whatever that looks like. This character is not really stereotypically feminine. She's not sexualized or curvy or slender. She's just her. And she basically popped out of my brain, fully formed already, as you can see. And I wasn't thinking too much about things like gender ideology while I was drawing, and even while I was refining this character, I was just having fun and being silly, and a lot of those thoughts came later during editing. But since I was thinking about who I was as a young woman and who I am now, I guess it makes sense that my thoughts continued along that path. Long story short, I was a young woman who didn't grow up feeling like a woman. I had a really hard time connecting with my femininity because it felt so foreign to me and wrong, and it took me a long time to figure out why, which ultimately boils down to just being a human and therefore complex by default. And to be honest, having people insist on hyperfemininity and force me to express myself in a certain way did not soften me towards the prospect. Weirdly, being made to act and dress in a certain way did not make me want to act and dress in that certain way. Weird how that works. On the few occasions where I did try to be more girly of my own accord, I was met with even more ridicule because I couldn't do that right either. Too manly to be a girl, too girly to be one of the guys. I couldn't win. Tomboy was a good enough term for me, but it still felt pigeonholed, like I was betraying myself whenever I wore a dress or makeup or something. Honestly, I felt a lot more comfortable stealing my brother's Jinkos, because that's the time period I'm from. But it was like, are you a tomboy or not? Are you a girly girl or not? Clearly, you can only be one or the other, right? It was only in my 20s that I started to understand and make peace with myself and who I was as a woman who just happened to have a lot of masculine characteristics. All this to say, femininity looks a little different for every individual. It's no hot take that we've been sold a very limited, narrow view on what women are supposed to look and act like, and we're still navigating our way away from that rigidity. The dysphoria young women can get by not fitting into those cookie cutter guidelines is real and disorienting, and it doesn't have to be that way. In media, a good variety of female characters and different types of femininity and different body types are not always represented, or if they are, a lot of times there's still a cutesy girly-ness to them that I think can detract from their other qualities. Like, sure, yeah, you can be a tomboy brat, as long as you still have hips that won't quit and pouty lips, Tinkerbell. Or you could be a girl who was good at karate and who did fighting and all of these boy-like activities, as long as you were cute and blonde about it, Buffy, for whom I actually harbor no ill will. But you get my point. I remember being asked by a female voice of authority in my life, Can't you be a tomboy in like a cute way? Pointing to a selection of young, hip, tomboyish starlets. Apparently not. They still had a cherubic appeal and the right dosage of girly that I simply did not have. And it has taken me a long time to deconstruct those pathways in my brain that told me I was doing being a girl wrong, instead of just realizing that girlhood just looks different for me. And that was okay. Now, I'm not a bodybuilder, but I have started to consume more bodybuilding media just with people posting more about it online, going through their own experiences, and finding these corners of community where people are saying, look, you can be big and strong and healthy and beautiful all at once. And it has been a huge encouragement to me. I learned to laugh at myself at a young age, and I still joke about being built like a fridge sometimes. But now that sort of commentary is usually met with a hell yeah and a high five, and it's nice. It's nice to both be met with acceptance from other people and to accept myself and even like myself for being one part girly, one part not, shaken, not stirred. And I know I'm not alone in this. We're steadily seeing more and more variety in the types of characters that are represented in media, and I look forward to seeing more strong, muscular, boxy, not necessarily hyper girly women. Or maybe they're hyper girly, but they're also stacked and shredded, you know? We're out here and we're taking the scenic route, learning how to love ourselves. You can see how much more well constructed this frog is than she was in her original sketch. But in keeping with my current art journey, I didn't want the lines to be too clean, so she's still a little rough around the edges, and so are her friends, as you can see, because obviously I didn't just stop with one. As projects tend to do, this grew really quickly and became much more of an anatomical study than I meant for it to, but I had a lot of fun doing it, so I'm not complaining. I was chatting with Raven and some other friends, because I made a lot of this over stream. Come follow me on Twitch at Nickel Art Studio. And we chatted about Arnold Schwarzenegger and bodybuilding and posing, and it was a lot of fun. These characters are definitely products of joy, and I think given the nature of their construction, that's pretty evident. And there's nothing better than a hoppy support group, so I couldn't help but think, well, why stop there? So I decided to continue and make her a friend. And this is where things started to shift away from the core concept of I like pink, deal with it, to more gender ideology. Since I had this confident, strong, feminine representation, I thought I'd do one for the boys, so say hello to male positivity, Frog. Now, what does male positivity look like? Well, I think it looks a lot like female positivity in that you are very aware of yourself and you love yourself, just manly-like. Women should both be confident in themselves and uplift the women around them, and likewise men should be confident and uplift the men around them. Then ideally, we can all lift up each other. I think it's really easy to say men need to be more confident. They're already confident. Look at the news, look at society, look. And that's all well and good for broad blanket statements, but we all have men in our lives and men that we love, and if you look at those men and then what society says a man is, they're not necessarily going to look the same. Just as femininity exists on a spectrum, so does masculinity, and there are men who love to cook and clean and sew and craft and do all sorts of things that society says is women's work. And there are plenty of men who are quiet and introspective, or they're short and skinny, or soft instead of large and muscular, and they're seen as feminine, and so they get bullied, they get harassed, and then they lock themselves up. And that repression is what often leads to toxic male behavior, where the abuse is continued. So I think it's important to continue to make space for that healthy male expression and to allow them the same grace of fluidity that women want, just like women need the space to exist outside of their own social expectations and express themselves how they want. And just as women should hold each other both up and accountable, men should help other men to be healthy and expressive. I follow a number of men online who crochet and sew and wear eyeliner, and they're not necessarily feminine. They're just dudes finding a new outlet, and I think that's great, and I hope to see more men exploring their own sense of self and be more confident in their bodies and hobbies, just as I look forward to seeing women break free of their own trappings that keep them from being their best self. And I think the more we continue to work and uplift each other and support each other and get better at communicating, the better off we'll be. Design-wise for our male frog, I think it's pretty straightforward. But the female frog, she's kind of a weird monster creature, but she's still girly. And with our male frog, this is just a guy. This is just some dude. And to be honest, I think that works pretty well because most of the men I know are just dudes being guys, and that's all they want to be. And so, since I made a lady frog and a dude frog, it's time for, another frog. I mean, good things come in threes, and that includes sticker designs, so I didn't want to waste an opportunity for representation, so this frog is for the other guys. We have pink, we have blue, now we have purple for everyone who exists in between or outside of these defined gender boxes. Some people look at the genders as we understand them and just say, no thanks, and either exist in a fluid state between both sets of expectations or do whatever they're going to do and don't worry about the specifics. So how does one express a lack of gender? I don't know. You'll have to tell me if I did it right. I think if you were looking at all these frogs in a row and they were all in grayscale and you had to pick which frog was which, you might mix up blue and pink. But that is a very agender pose if ever I saw one. It's very unabashed, it's a little flamboyant, and it's kind of everything I know about people who scoff in the face of gender concepts. I, as stated, grew up with a pretty narrow view of people and how they're supposed to be, but as an adult, I've met so many people who have wildly different experiences than I've had, who express themselves in ways that I didn't even know were options. People who have transed their gender or altered themselves in an affirming way, and they're happy and comfortable, and seeing that sheer confidence and joy has opened my eyes to new avenues of self-expression and has helped me be more confident in my own self and my own version of being a person and a woman. And again, in this design, as with the others, it's all about being comfortable in oneself. Whether you're feminine or masculine or androgynous or some combination thereof, whatever it is you want to be the best version of it. Ultimately, there is no reason all of us cannot be comfortable in who we are, confident and powerful, and hyping each other up like a bunch of pros in a gym. So I hope these buff frogs make some sense to you, and that you might find yourself at least a little bit seen amongst them. I know times are tough right now, but you deserve to be your most comfortable you, no matter who you are. And it's totally okay to like pink because it's a great color. If you enjoyed watching this, please let me know. And if you didn't enjoy this, don't let me know. I don't want to hear it. Thanks. At the time of posting, my patrons are receiving their own pink frogs in the mail, and the rest will be available on my website next week on March 3rd. Raven Soap Drop is this Friday, February 28, and if you buy the full Pink Power Bundle, you get a pink frog sticker too. So visit catandravendesigns.com this Friday for some pretty, high-quality, community-invested soaps, and I'm sure we'll see each other again. Enjoy the art, enjoy what's next, and thanks for watching.